Hello, I'm Connor Cooper. You may notice me and recognize me from the television show War here on Channel 10, as well as doing the daily announcements. Here recently, myself as well as Ayanna Schneider, we were both lucky enough to attend to the Good Shepherd home in Fostoria, Ohio. We were able to interview Bob Watson and Mildred Algie. One was 98, one was 102. We were lucky enough to get 200 years worth of information from these two lovely people that have gone through a lot in their life. And what you're about to see are some excerpts from their interviews that we captured, and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, we are here with Mildred Algie. She's 102 years old and has some awesome stories to tell us. Now, what is your earliest memory?
Well, Fort Recovery, Ohio. That's where I was born. And we moved to Tiffin during the flood, which was kind of bad because I was just a tiny tot and a year and a half old.
Oh, wow.
Because my brother was supposed to take my hand going across the bridge, which was a bad flood in Tiffin at that time. And we got across safely. Then I lived in Tiffin, went to school at St. Joe's through my half of my 8th year. Dad had a store, or drugstore across from what was then the Shawn Hotel. And I know I got to take his lunch down in a little bucket. And that was a big event. I was about 8, I think, but that was something to go down the main street. As I said, I went to St. Joe's. When I was in the middle of the 8th grade, we moved to Toledo, and there I went to school, what was called the old Cathedral School. And I was only there half year because then I went into high school. I was in Central Catholic and in Toledo. All right, I graduated in 29, and I worked in various offices. I was basically a receptionist, and I had a PBX board, if you know what that is. And it was real interesting. I was in about 4 different offices because the Depression came along, and that was bad. I didn't have a job for a while, and I forget some of the companies, but I'll have to think a minute. We moved during the Depression. We moved back to Findlay. And then Dad had a building there, and I worked for him. It was good. I was at a fountain. We had fountains, cigarettes, and newspapers, that sort of thing. And that was, I'm going past. We were there until I dated my husband from Finland, Richard Algie, and for about 3 years. And then when Mother and Dad moved to Tiffin, and I was with them. And didn't have any work for a while, but then it came time for the World War II, and I didn't know much about World War I, but I remember I was pretty little, but my brother took what we used to take a bath in, if you have any idea. It was a tub about this big, and he took that and pounded this was like we'd have a big parade or something, and he kind of ruins the town. But yeah, that would have to advance far back in Finley, and well, really went into service. He was at an anti-aircraft, he was second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and he taught. All right. I went down, lived in Norfolk for a while, and then I was expecting our oldest son, Dick, and went back to be with my mother and dad. That was in Tiffin. Now I don't know where I am there, but Tiffin was nice, and I had friends, real good friends. My big experience, we had a hill by our house on Circular Street, and it was snowing, and I had, with some of the kids, we were white sledding, and you'd get down the hill and out into the street. Well, this girl didn't deliberately do it, but she pushed me down the hill, and I'm right in front of a truck. Well, he didn't go over. He pushed me, my legs. They weren't broken, but they were terribly hurt. And that was kind of a big thing for a while. All right, but that would go back to when I was St. Joe's, yeah. Don't keep on like that.
How old were you when you got married?
32.
32?
Mm-hmm. And I had gone with Richard 3 years, and then we didn't go together at all. And he was in service, and I didn't date him. And then I had moved to Finley, and anyway, he wondered if he could see me. This is kind of important because this day we hadn't been together, for 3 years, and he wondered if he could marry me. And that was, anyway, we were married the following May, and then I was down around Norfolk, lived until I was expecting the baby. And then I went back, and now I'm back to where I lived with my parents. Mm-hmm. All right. I had two, Dick and Bob, when we lived in Tiffin. And then really was out of the Army. And wait a minute, I didn't tell you when we were married in '43. And he was working for Union Carbide, National Carbide then. Mm-hmm. And we lived in Finley. I'm back. The children were born in Tiffin again, because we moved. And then, I had things in my mind, and I don't know where my mind went. I'll tell you some things that happened in my life. Dad took me to Rome, and we went to, of course, St. Peter's, but I was there for the canonization of 5 different saints, which has been big in my life. Wow. St. Maximilian Kolbe and St. I don't know if it makes a difference if I mention them or not, but yeah, you might know them. Padre Pio, and St. Linus Casey from Detroit. He became a saint at that time. And there was one more that St. Andre. Now, St. Andre was from Canada, and I was up to the room he lived in, but couldn't get in the room, it was locked. But he, had a lot to do with the Oratory of St. Joseph up there, which is a wonderful place in Canada. But now, see, I don't know if that interests anybody.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Then I was St. Anne de Beaupré in Canada, and when we're back in Rome for the canonization of these saints, which is a big thing now, if you know anything about. And we were there with our friends, well, it was with a Franciscan group, and Father Brown was his brother of one of the girls in our group, and he had Mass in the room that well, it was one of the priests, I'm sorry. Anyway, I know him so well. Well, maybe I can go back to it. But it was a real special event to have the Mass in, I know him well. And then I went to Assisi. Of course, saw St. Clare, Incorrupt Body, and we stayed in Assisi for a few days. We were there over the anniversary in October of St. Francis, and that was a big event. They had like a platform out in the center area. First you'd go up a hill to the top, is where the church is. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not doing very well.
Totally okay.
I'm trying to, Maximilian Kolbe, that's who I wanted to tell you. Okay. We stayed in Assisi for a few days. That was, of course, interesting to me. I saw the incorrupt body of St. Clare, and of course, these are basically religious things that you might not be any interested. Then we'll go back to, Riddy and I had the 3 children, Dick, Bob, and then Joe was born some years later. And we were on vacation, going to vacation in Washington, and this was in '67. And we were at the breezeway exit beyond that a little bit, and it was raining very hard. And this car came out of, we were on 30, and this car came out of kind of a side road, ran right into it, and Riddy was killed instantly, which was, and I was in hospitals in and out of the next few years. And I don't know if that interests anybody or not. Then I lived in Governor's Manor for a while, and, here in Fostoria, and then Is this kind of boring?
No, this is super
No.
interesting. Now, when you moved into Governor's Manor, was it was it still
It was
What?
real nice. It
was it yeah?
Yeah.
Was it newer or had it been there
It was
for a while?
new.
Brand new? Because I've seen photos from when they were
It
making
was-
the change from whatnot. And
It was very nice at that time. And it's nice from the outside now. I don't know about the inside.
what floor did you live on?
First,
First floor.
yeah, it was nice. We had real nice friends. And, let's see, after the accident, as I say, I was in St. Vincent's for a while. I was at our Fostoria hospital for a while. I was badly hurt. My son had two of his ankles, or both his ankles broken.
Wow.
And he was with me in Michigan. That's where the accident was. For a while, but then he was transferred back to Fostoria, and I was still in the hospital and I was in and out of hospitals. As I say, I'm wired up here and some not very.
All kinds of stuff.
And then we lived in Fostoria on the corner of Union and Elm Street. I remember that. And I'm sorry,
It's totally cool. Okay.
After his death, and I went to Florida. I lived at St. Petersburg at Governor's Manor. No. Well, I lived it was a real nice
How long did you stay in
home.
Florida for?
About 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. And
So the Ohio weather is kind of a.
Kind of a
You
drag
missed
for you.
that.
And then I had a son down. My Bob had moved there, and so they were in Fort Lauderdale. I was with them for a while before, and I am now. I'm now in St. Petersburg. Okay, that was very interesting. A lot of things to see around St. Petersburg, and I liked it there. And as I say, I was there pretty long. And then I kind of decided I'd like to go back home with where my other two children were, and were already grave So I come back to Fostoria, and I came here, and I've been here since. And it's been about, I guess, 11 years.
Oh, wow.
And this is a nice place.
Oh yeah.
I'm much to be thankful for. I missed a lot of things in my life, but I mean, that's enough, I think.
Now, you've seen a lot of presidents come and go.
Yeah.
Now, who's been your favorite president that we've had?
In my lifetime, Lincoln's my favorite.
Lincoln.
But I wasn't here then.
Yeah.
My favorite, well, I know who I mean, but he was about fourth last president. Who, can you name some?
Clinton, Bush,
Back.
Kennedy. We got
Well, yeah, Kennedy, I liked him. Reagan, Ronald Reagan.
Reagan. Yeah, that's who my grandma likes. My grandma's a big fan of Reagan.
Is she?
Yeah.
Well, bless her heart. He was, in my opinion. And then,
Good actor too.
yes, he was. Yes, he was. And I think he did well as president. That's my opinion. And I'm not going to tell you my opinion of the president. That wouldn't be nice.
I'd probably agree with you on that one.
Well, and then, well, I'm here. That's it. I worked in various offices in Toledo. Did I tell you that? And PBX board.
What was your favorite job that you held? Like company-wise?
What company? Well, it's out of business now for a long time. But National Supply was one of my favorite places. But I worked at a place I can't think of. And I worked several places I'm not thinking of, that's all. But at each place I was at the same position. I was at a reception desk and a PBX board. And I lived with some friends that, well, we were friends in high school, and this was in Toledo again. Her mother, and during the Depression, those were very bad days. And I think I paid her $5 a week to live there and eat there. Real nice people. I remember during the Depression, of course, I moved. In Tiffin, Mother used to go over to the grocery store when things were closing. And then, you know, they'd have wilted things that they couldn't sell the next day. And she'd get that type of things. They were good. I mean, they'd freshen up and stuff. Yeah. But we got through the Depression. It was not good. Dad lost a couple houses and stuff. That went with my life, you know. And I think there's more things, but I'll think of them when I get back in my room.
So you said you used to work at the company where you would stick the things in the board.
Yeah.
What was that
PBX
called?
board.
Yeah. There's been so much technology
Oh.
since then. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm left out in the cold. My three sons, of course, all this stuff, they have nice positions and use computers naturally, and one, he's, well, something to do with outer space. But I can't explain it to you because I don't know. But they'll come and tell me something, and I had an awful time getting well online. I still am not very definite on what if you're online.
Yeah, I still have troubles with certain things myself.
You can't have trouble.
I can't use those smartphones.
Boy, I tell you, we have facilities here at Good Shepherd, you know, and you know, Dick will come and he'll get, my goodness, he gets where we used to live. Well, you know what you could get on, but things that I can hardly understand. But I guess at 102, you don't know all the fandangles.
You've seen so much.
I could, yes, this generation has some not so good things, but there certainly has had some wonderful things too. I thought of something. Oh, I wanted to tell you when we lived in Tiffin, you know, you didn't have a bathroom in those days. And so we had a big tub that I told you, and we'd put that in front of the oven when we'd take a bath. Of course, I was a little kid. I mean, I was a child. And the oven would be heating us, which was real nice. And we went to the laboratory out in the backyard. I mean, we had a building.
Yeah, a little outhouse.
And it had remember we had Sears and Roebuck cattle, I think, in there. Which nowadays sounds a little weird. But and so many things, so many. Did I tell you I was up at, yes, I think I did. I told you I went to Lourdes in France and Fatima in Portugal. Yeah, Saint Anne de Beaupré. There's more, but I mean, I think that's enough, isn't it?
Learn to speak any other languages while you were in the other countries?
Sorry,
Did you learn to speak any other languages while you were in the other countries?
no, I've never, I took Latin in high school, but that's never very good at it. No,
What kind of music did you listen to, you know, in the older days?
I listened to Wayne King and Guy Lombardo and Bing Crosby.
Yeah, there you go. What was your favorite movie?
Now, we could come up a few years there, but I certainly don't care for a lot of the music now. I don't like
I don't either. So.
well, good, so I'm not way out in outer space.
There's still some good kids out there listening to good
Oh,
music.
yes. Oh, yes.
Usually the stuff that's not on the radio.
I don't mean to be negative about it, because
definitely.
they're really fine. But in my experience, I was through a flood and an automobile accident that was very bad. And those are just a couple of the high things that I mentioned. I liked Fort Lauderdale real well, but as I said, I thought, well, you know, I want to be buried with my husband, and well, that's one reason. And then the two children were back in Dixon, Norwalk, and Joe's in Toledo. And so they're close to the other one, obviously still in Florida. So it's a lot of stuff, but that's all I can think of very well.
Is there any place that you'd like to visit still? Like anywhere in the world that you'd like to go?
Oh, yes. Well, I did the Grand Canyon was an important place, but I don't care to go back again. But that's really something, you know.
Is it?
And I like Niagara Falls too. As far as over in Europe, the places I was visited were mostly shrines. And as I tell you, that event with the canonization, that was a very...
So you guys take care of it.
All right, we are now here with Bob Watson. That's right, the Bob Watson. All right, Bob, what year were you born in?
1915, October 3rd.
All right.
That makes me 98 and a half years old.
Oh, you don't look a day over 30, sir. What's your earliest memory from your childhood?
Oh, there was so many things. Going through the Depression was something else. We didn't realize maybe how bad it was until afterwards, but it was really bad. I was born and raised on a farm near the little village of Amsden. And of course, I had duties to do, and the worst one was cleaning out the chicken coop every Friday.
Oh no.
Yeah, so, but we made it, and things got better. Yeah. I went to war in 1991, when the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor. It changed everything. I was about 25. And we had registered for the draft in about 1938, I believe it was. And as time went on, there was more work towards the war. And then when it happened, everybody said, I want a gun, I want to go to war. I don't need any training. Of course, it didn't happen that way, but
Yeah.
I was drafted here at Fostoria, and I went to officers training school in Fort Belvoir, which is 20 miles south of Washington, D.C., and became an officer in engineers, was attached to the Air Force. And our duty was to repair and keep the airfields up so that the fighter planes could stay up front. And I was overseas 34 months.
Oh wow! Thank you for your service.
And
Thank you.
well, I was lucky. We just put. I was in 5 battles, but we just say I was lucky. Let it go at that. Some of the battles are still familiar, and well,
Very fortunate.
I feel I've had a lucky life. I worked for a large construction firm out of Cleveland before the war, went back to work for them after the war, and I was about 5 years with them, and my mother had farms out by the village of Amsden, and I quit the construction game and came home and took over the farms. And it was an awful big change, and but it all worked out real good, real good. Oh,
Well, what was like one of the biggest events in your life that changed, the way you viewed the world? Like, like with the women becoming, being able to vote, or the assassination of Kennedy, or anything like that.
oh, it'd have to do with the war.
The war.
Yeah,
Big event, yeah.
World War II. Yeah, it would have to do with that. What they did.
Yeah. What do you remember feeling when 9/11 attacks took place?
Well, probably that you didn't think it could happen,
Yeah.
but it did.
Only so.
And to see that building burn, or those buildings burn and fall, we saw it right on television that it happened.
I remember being in preschool.
And you just said, well, that can't happen, but it did. And it was by terrorists. Well thought out, well planned, and it happened.
Yeah. It was a scare. I remember being really scared when that happened. It was just a traumatic event for everybody, even if you weren't, even if you didn't have family members in it. It was just
Yeah.
whole nation.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember the moon landing? What do you remember? Anything happening with that? Like, what was going on, like in America as we were landing on the moon? Like, do you remember hearing the broadcasts and whatnot of it?
Well, you remember so many things that it'd be hard to pick out one. 9/11 was bad, but the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor was the worst. And then how mean and bad the Japanese were. You've heard of the Bataan March? And well, then on the other hand, in Europe was Hitler.
Yeah.
And how he treated the people, especially the Jews. And I saw one of the concentration camps about 5 days after it was captured, and there's no words to describe what was done to those people. And he and then the Japanese were unbelievable. Yeah.
Just a lot of evil.
Oh, yeah. You can't believe that they would do things like that, but they did.
Did you make a lot of good friends while serving in the military?
Yes, yes. became close friends.
Yeah.
And then when they turned us loose, they went their way, and I've contacted a couple, but nothing like it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you? Where did you meet your wife at?
Beg pardon?
Did you ever get married?
Oh, yes.
Where'd you meet your wife?
Right here in Fostoria. And we were on our honeymoon in California when Japan hit Pearl Harbor.
Really?
And I was going to stay out there and work, but I knew that my wife would have to stay. She didn't know anybody there, so we turned right around and came back home. And no, she was a Fostoria gal. We were married 65 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Where did you graduate in Fostoria? Did you go?
No, I graduated in Oakland, California from high school. My mother and father divorced when I was very young. And my father went to California, and he and another man started up a construction company, roads, bridges, dams, and so forth. Mm-hmm. And I was out there with him for about 7, 8 years, and then he passed away, and I came back home in 1936, and you couldn't buy a job in the Depression.
I know, Great Depression.
Oh,
yeah.
But I was lucky, and I found a job, and it started out paying 35 cents an hour.
Oh wow.
And
So what was the average weekly paycheck look like back then?
if you made $20, you did pretty good.
Oh wow.
But they didn't take anything out.
Yeah.
It was shortly after that they started to take it out. And then the Social Security came along, I think in about 1935, 36, somewhere around in there.
Gas wasn't nearly as expensive back then.
Beg pardon?
Gas wasn't nearly as expensive back then.
I remember Roosevelt was running for re-election, and his big deal was Social Security. And people said, don't ever vote for him. You don't want Social Security. You lose your name, and you just get a number. You'll be a number. And of course, it's one of the greatest things that ever happened.
Oh, I know. It did a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah. Right here in Fostoria, the weekly checks or the monthly checks come in is just out of this world. If it wouldn't be, we would back where it was a depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember, like, what was your favorite style of music in your younger days?
In the mid 60s or 36s, Cedar Point, and there was about 10 big bands nationwide, and each one of those came to Cedar Point.
Oh wow.
For a week, and every week they changed and another band came on, and that was something to go there and dance and listen to those bands. And that was great.
Just have a good time.
Oh, that was a great time, but money was awful hard. Even the girls kicked in money for the gasoline.
Oh, wow.
Well, they just did that, and they wanted to go dance too, so.
Gotta say.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Woodstock Music Festival?
Oh, yeah, up in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was, like, most people's opinions of that?
Well, it was so far away, but we had one over on the other side of Tiffin,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, shortly after that.
Really?
Out east of Tiffin, and there were so many hippies in those days, and the hippies came in, and it was out in the country, and we remember more of that because it was so local.
Yeah.
I remember that they tore the boards off of a barn to make a fire.
Oh, wow.
And there was a great many people to it, and it was wonderful whether they could control them, but they finally, they left. But yeah, that was something though. And like I say, I couldn't believe what the pictures that we had on the television that showed that. And, yeah.
So, you've seen presidents come and go. So, and you mentioned Roosevelt earlier, but who was your favorite president?
I'd have to say John Kennedy.
Kennedy?
He was young and forceful, and he had a young cabinet, and he was my favorite.
Do you remember where were you at when you heard the news of his assassination?
I'm trying to think now. It'll come to me a little later. Right now, I just can't remember that. But I know that it came on TV, and we couldn't believe it. Nobody would shoot somebody like that. Yeah. Oh, I was at a convention in Cincinnati, and there was a group of us in a car coming home, and we stopped in Dayton or someplace in a restaurant, and they said Kennedy had been shot. Well, we didn't believe it, and then we turned the car radio on, and he was dead. But that we couldn't believe. But the only thing we wanted to do was get home. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a scary thing to hear happen.
Yeah.
What was do you remember like American cinema and whatnot? Like what was the cinema like back then?
What picture shows?
Yeah, like what was like if you go to the movies on a Saturday night, what would you see?
It was the main entertainment.
Yeah.
And Sunday evening, there was a picture show there on North Main Street, right next to where the new building of Miller's new building is. It was the Colonial, and then became the State. And I can still remember the crowds. That you always waited until the movie started. You didn't want to get in during the middle of it, and the crowd would be just almost a block long waiting to get in. And if I remember right, it was about 35 cents to movie to get in. Of course, that was 35 cents, and if you had your girl, then it all ended up. Yeah, but. Of course, radio was a big thing, and they had all kinds of wonderful programs on it, and plays, and you watch the television, you kind of drift off, but you didn't with the radio because you had to keep up with what was going on.
Pay attention. My grandma has told me stories when she would, when she was a little girl, listening to like the spooky stories and stuff, like some of the horror stories they'd have on the radio.
Oh yeah.
Talks about. She's told me several times about going to the movie theater and watching like Frankenstein and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had in the movies they had a newsreel before the big movie would start. That would maybe last 5 or 6 minutes, and those were always great. There was always some exotic thing happened, and they had it on that, and Fox Newsreel or something. Yeah, but the movie was a big thing. When I was a kid, there was streetcars in Fostoria. Fostoria was the hub. You could go to Findlay, you could go to Toledo, Fremont, Tiffin, and
that'd be awesome.
I used to be, if things went okay during the week, on Saturday I could go to town here and sometimes go to the Y and swim, but there was a theater, it was called the Majestic. We call it the Bucket of Blood. And on Saturday they had the cereals. They had cowboy cereals. Now, if you missed a couple shows, the next one you could pick up what was going on. But that was a big deal to get to go and see that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember your favorite movie?
My favorite one? Mm-hmm. Well, it comes right off the reel would be Gone with the Wind.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
Yeah. And that, I think, cost $2 to see that.
Really?
And that was in about 1937 or 8, somewhere around in there. But see, I'd take my girl, and that was $4. And boy, that would hurt. But anyway.
It was worth it.
And they run the movie, and then about halfway through, they stopped. They had an intermission. Mm-hmm. And of course, they were selling popcorn and stuff like that during the intermission.
Spend more money.
But that was really something, and the color that they had with that was really.
Do you
something.
remember the first time you seen a film in color? After seeing black and white for.
Yeah. No, I don't. But I remember when they came with color on television. Like, well, we couldn't wait for that. And of course, it wasn't too hot there to start with, but it got better and better and better.
Yeah. Do you remember watching like Johnny Carson and stuff like that?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh sure. You had your favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your opinion of the Beatles when they made
I never thought much of them. I really did. But their music is better today today, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I know
I completely agree. Completely agree. Do you have a favorite artist musician that you?
No, I don't think I have a favorite. I mean, cartoons and all that. I glance at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's some of the places you've visited in the United States, like some other states that you've been in?
Well, in about 1970, we bought a motorhome, and that was one of the best things because being a farmer in the summertime after wheat harvest, there wasn't much to do for about 6 weeks, and we really traveled. We were at every state in the Union and across Canada, and we really saw everything with that thing.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your favorite like monument that you were able to see, like Grand Canyon or?
Well, the Grand Canyon would be one, and Washington Monument in Washington. That was something. It's still something, you know. And well, I remember going to Hoover Dam, and you just couldn't believe that thing. And
pretty cool.
oh yes, I doubt whether they could build it today due to the cost.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably be pretty pricey. Pricey.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet anybody that was famous?
Well, in the Army, in the war, I was stationed at March Air Force Field, which was south and east of Los Angeles, and we would get into Los Angeles, and we were in one of the big restaurants or something, and I met Bing Crosby, and at that time he was one of the tops.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He came around to the table.
Really?
We had our uniforms on and all that. And
That's pretty cool.
great.
he asked where we were stationed and all that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Don't tell Mildred that. She's gonna be pretty jealous of you.
Fostoria had 2 generals that was in World War II. They were Slaters, their name, and they were both in the Air Force. And I met the older one, David. I met him in England, and how nice he was. And now he was a 2-star general, and that's high rank. I'm a 2nd lieutenant. And so
it was pretty intimidating.
Oh, you have him even speak to you. Yeah.
Now, when Elvis came around, what was like the general consensus with the ladies around here?
Well, Elvis Presley?
Yeah.
Well, I never could step up with him. I mean, he was. I knew he was full of dope, and at the end there, and that's what I was talking about. But I never thought much of him.
Yeah.
But he made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he went the dope route and killed himself. So.
It's too bad.
Yes.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
So you said you've been to England. That's where you.
Beg pardon?
You said you've been to England. You said you've been to England.
England?
Yeah.
I was in England for about 8 months, and we were working on an airfield, and they pulled us off, and we took special training because then we knew we were going in on the invasion, and it was rough.
Have you been anywhere else around the world?
Beg pardon?
Have you been anywhere else around the world?
Well, Canada, Mexico, and Hawaii, and stuff like that. But, and of course, in the war, I was in France, Belgium, and Germany.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun for the both of us. We look forward to, going back again next year possibly. And once again, a special thanks to Bob and Mildred. Thanks a lot, guys. You both were wonderful, and you have a good one.